As an online coach, if you watch this video to the end, you'll have everything you need to increase your show rate by 45% and double the amount of cash you collect on a weekly basis. Because that's exactly what I was able to do for my client Jimmy. I was able to increase his show rate by 45% in just 10 days, from 55% to 100% in just 10 days. Who else is able to say that? And we didn't just hit a 100% show rate for just one day. We were able to kind of maintain that 100% show rate for a full working week from the 1st of May to the 5th of May. At the time of the screenshot, we had booked 10 qualified calls and 8 of them had already been taken. All 8 of them showed up and there were still 2 more to kind of be taken. So 100% show rate, right? 8 out of 8 so far. As you can see here, Jimmy kind of said, we're booking in a ton of calls and our show rate is 100% so far, out of the ones we were expecting to show up, because there were still 2 that had to be taken, right? So from 55% in the 21st of April to then basically the 1st of May, we increased it by 45%, right? Until I kind of made the decision to start ramping up the amount of calls we were booking, which naturally dropped the show rate, because we were then able to book around 8 qualified calls in about 2 or 3 days. And obviously because of the influx of calls, it naturally dropped to around a 77%, which is still a 22% increase in show rate in just, at this point, it will be like 14 days, right? And like the insights that I'm going to share with you in this video that got these results, increased the show rate, literally doubled the amount of cash we were able to collect in like an 8-day time span. If we look at from the 13th of April to the 21st of April, which is around 8 days, we were able to collect 6K in cash collected. And now, moving on to literally just 14 days later, in the first 8 days of May, we were able to almost double the amount of cash collected. We went from collecting 6K in 8 days to almost 11.5K in 8 days, right? And that all happened just from that increase in show rate. So you can see how important increasing your show rate is. If you can double your show rate, you'll probably more than double your business, to be honest, if everything else stays the same, right? So now that you've kind of seen the results, let's get into what kind of made these results possible and how you can use the same insights and the same changes that I made to get these similar results. Now, before we get into the specific changes I made to increase the show rate by 45%, I do want to break down kind of the foundations of your show rate, which starts from understanding the 2 reasons why people don't show up in the first place, and then understanding the different parts of your sales process and how they affect your show rate. It is very important that you understand these foundations before we go into the other changes and all these kind of things, because by understanding the foundations, you'll then understand why I implemented the things that I did and why they kind of worked out so well, right? So the first foundational thing you need to understand is the 2 reasons why people don't show up. The first is that they forgot about the call, which I don't really believe in. The second is that they don't want to show up, which in my opinion is the main reason people don't show up. Because if something is very, very important to you, you won't forget about it, like most of the time, right? Especially if you're maybe running a B2B offer, where if you're a business owner selling to business owners, those business owners in most cases are going to be organized, are going to be using calendars, and it's very difficult for them to forget things. The same thing if you're running a B2C, where you're maybe targeting, obviously, customers that have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest. If they have thousands and thousands of dollars to invest, they probably organize people, right? And if it's really important for them, they will show up. That's why I kind of say that them not wanting to show up probably accounts for 80% of the no-shows that you have, right? But nonetheless, these are the 2 reasons why people don't show up. They either forget about the call or they simply just don't want to show up, right? And later on in the video, I'm going to show you kind of my exact reminder and confirmation sequence that almost makes it impossible for people to no-show because they forgot about the call. And then also some of the reasons why people don't want to show up and how to fix that, right? So that's kind of the first foundational thing you need to understand, is the 2 reasons people don't show up. Now, when it comes to fixing any bottleneck in your sales process, you need to understand the parts of your sales process and single out the parts that are causing the bottleneck. So this is obviously pretty simple explanation of your sales process. And the bottleneck happens here, where we expect them to show up, but they don't show up, right? And these are all the parts of the sales process that will then affect this from happening. Obviously, the sales call doesn't affect the show up rate because people need to show up before the sales call can happen, right? Pretty self-explanatory. So I would kind of highlight then the post-booking process, the DM or phone conversation that the setters are having, and then maybe the marketing channel that they came from. Now, the section that's closest to the bottleneck will have a 60 to 70% more of an effect on causing the bottleneck than the sections before that. That's where you can see the post-booking process like 60 to 70%, the setter conversation is around 35%, and then the marketing channel is really like 5 to 10% for most businesses that we're going to be looking at, right? And if you look at the two sections that have the biggest effect, they are going to be the setting conversation, whether that's in the DMs or over the phone, and then the main one will be the post-booking process, right? Now, to get into explaining how both of these sections affect the show rate, right? So the setting conversation, there's only two aspects that I'm looking for when I'm kind of analyzing the setting conversation. It's going to be trust and then incentive. So trust in you as a coach and trust in your product or service and its ability to get them to their desired result. And then when it comes to like incentive, it's mainly going to be like an incentive is basically the reason as to why they're going to take action, like booking a call or showing up. This is more related to uncovering their pain and making them realize that they need to take action because they can't solve it on their own. They have a problem, they can't solve it, they need our solution, right? When it comes to a setter's conversation, the incentive is what gets them to take action and book a call. And trust, which is kind of relatability, is what gets them to stay committed to the action they have taken after they have taken the action. Basically, once they've booked the call, allowing them to stay committed to actually showing up. Because a lot of people, you might get them emotional in the DM or the phone setting conversation. Your setter might get them emotional. But if there's no trust, they might still book the call just based off incentive and just based off being emotional. But then when 24 hours goes by, they've slept on it, they've gone to work, all these kind of things, and that emotion is kind of dissipated, that's when they might cancel the call. That's when they might ghost you completely and not show up, right? So you need both trust and incentive. Hope that makes sense, right? And when it comes to like a B2C offer, trust and relatability is really where you'll build, like relatability is where you'll build trust for B2C offer. For B2B, relatability is still important, but you also want to share free value in your DM or phone setting conversation. Like you want to share almost like tips and tricks or like insights that will actually make the person you're talking to, it will actually make them money. Imagine how much trust you'll be able to build if your setter shares some insights in the DM setting conversation that actually then they go in and maybe change immediately and they start making some money. Imagine how much more trust that will build in your like solution and just position you as an expert, right? So that's kind of more of the way you'll build trust when it comes to B2B, but obviously relating to them is still the main way you can build trust in the setting conversation, right? Now, when it comes to the post-booking process, this is where it kind of gets interesting because post-booking process will probably account for 60% of the effect of whether or not people show up or not, right? So you need to really make sure you watch this next part because it's obviously important, right? So the same way you will create an incentive and build trust in the setting conversation to get them to book a call is the same way you need to continue creating an incentive and building even more trust to get them to show up. It's the same thing, right? If we understand that building trust and creating an incentive will lead to someone taking an action like booking a call, it's the same thing to get them to show up. If we want them to take an action in the sales process, build trust, create an incentive. That's all you need to focus on. That's all your setter needs to focus on to get them to book calls. That's all your setter then needs to focus on to get them to show up. And this is a big thing that you can, I guess, tell your setters is that their job isn't just to book calls. Their job is to also, yes, book calls, but also get them to show up. That is your setter's job. And if you tell your setter, hey, all you need to focus on is building trust and creating an incentive, to get them to first book a call and then get them to show up, it will make the entire process much clearer for your setter. And they'll be able to understand exactly what they need to do, right? So keep that in mind. Hope that kind of helps out. And yeah, so like the two biggest things that you can do during your post-booking process that will affect your show rate is whether you continue creating that incentive and building trust, and if you're then invoking confirmation before the call, which is also something we'll talk about that kind of eliminates people for forgetting about the call, right? But the trust and the incentive is really what's going to get people to want to show up. If you don't do that, if you don't use sales assets or like all the other things I'm going to share in this video, people won't want to show up, and they won't show up, right? And that's why 80% of the no-shows happen, because people don't want to show up, because you haven't continued creating that trust and incentive in the post-booking process. Very, very important, right? So now that you kind of understand the foundations in terms of the two reasons people don't show up and the different parts of the sales process and how they affect the show rate, let's now get into kind of the changes that I made specific to this team to almost, double their show rate and literally double the amount of weekly cash collected. So this is the exact appointment setting process for this team, right? I'm not going to go too in depth in the pre-booking process, which is basically what the setters are doing in the DMs, because obviously this is very dialed in. The main thing that I guess you need to focus on from this video for the pre-booking process is just make sure that your setter is building a lot of trust with your leads, right? This isn't a video where I'm going to talk about strategies to book calls and stuff like that. I'll definitely make videos later on about that, but today's main topic is just the show rate and all the things I implemented to double this business's show rate, essentially, right? So make sure that they are building trust and relating to people, sharing free value where you can, especially for B2B offers. Now, once the call is booked, this is obviously where the post-booking process starts, right? So there's kind of three sections to the post-booking process, or the three sections that I like to look at. The first thing you'll do as soon as someone books is qualify them. The second thing, once we have confirmed that they are qualified, we will then warm them up and educate them. Warming them up and educating them in this process, you can see it's kind of the main part of the post-booking process. This is where we continue creating that incentive for them to show up and continue building trust with them so that they can show up. This is where it happens. And then lastly is where we implement a reminder sequence and a confirmation call, which basically gets us to confirm that they're going to show up, which then eliminates them no showing because they forgot about the call, right? You can see that us kind of making sure that they do want to show up is the biggest portion of the post-booking process. And then eliminating the fact that they forget about the call and that's why they no-show is just a couple messages at the end and a little call. So this is the actual post-booking process and what it looks like right now. So I'm going to basically start at the top with qualifying. Qualifying is the first thing you need to do whenever someone books a call, right? And it's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, if you send someone your calendar and they book a call, of course, you need to have a budget question within your booking form questions. For example, the question that we have for this offer is, for our coaching, it requires you to have at least 2 to 4K to invest. Is that manageable for you? And it's like a yes or no, right? So the first thing that the setters do as soon as someone books a call is that they look at the booking form and see if they have the budget. So if the lead books a call, however, they say no to the budget question. So we've asked them, do you have at least 2 to 4K to invest? They've said no, right? We essentially then DQ them and cancel the call, right? The way we would do this, and this is also pretty important for me to go over, we would essentially not just say, okay, you're unqualified, we cancel the call, we never want to see you again. It's like we literally get them to save up and come back. Because if you just cancel the call and say, have a nice life, we're never going to talk to you again, almost, right? And you never have another touch point with them, they are just going to go find one of your competitors that they can currently afford. What we do is we get them to save up and come back to us. The way we do that is by first confirming that they are unqualified. So we'll say something like, name, saw you booked the call, excited to see how I can help. By the way, I saw you said you have less than 2K to invest. Is that correct? So we're basically just confirming that they are unqualified. If they confirm that they are unqualified, they say, yes, that's correct. We then get them to save up and come back. So we'll say, I see with my coaching, it requires you to have at least 2 to 4K set aside to invest. If that's not manageable for you at the moment, I'll have to cancel the call to not waste anyone's time. So we're basically telling them, hey, it's not a good time right now. We're going to cancel the call. And then this is where we get them to save up. We'll say, however, I'll check in on you in 2 weeks, but you can also let me know when you're ready for this. You will need at least 2K to get started. So we literally tell them, I'll check in with you in two weeks, but when you have at least 2K, you can also come back and let us know and we'll get you started. And I can't tell you how many people actually end up coming back, rebooking a call, maybe self-booking, and they end up obviously showing up closing. Like, even when I was a setter during my career, I've done this so many times and it really, really does work. So this is just a cool way that you can get people to come back. But this is the first thing we need to do, is kind of look at the booking form and make sure that they do actually have the budget. So if they say yes to that question, it obviously confirms they have the budget, we can continue on with the post-booking process. If they don't have the budget, don't continue the post-booking process. There's no point in your closers or in you as whoever's taking the sales calls, getting on sales calls with people that are unqualified, right? Pretty self-explanatory. That's why qualifying is the first stage of the post-booking process. Now, that has really nothing to do with trust and incentive and getting people to show up and stuff like that, but it is the first thing you need to implement in your post-booking process, right? Now, once we've confirmed that they are qualified, this is where the entire process actually starts. So the first thing we'll say is, hey, name, saw you booked the call for Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? And this is where there's a couple of things you can start doing. And this is where I'm really going to go more in detail in terms of what each of these things are and why it's set up this way. So if you just take 2 things out of this video, is to call your leads after they book a call. That's all. That if you just take one thing out of this video, literally one thing, is to call your leads almost as soon as they book a call. If you can get your leads on a phone call with your setter almost as soon as they book a call, you can double your show rate. If there's one thing you take out of this entire video, however long the video is, call your leads as soon as they book a call. Get your setter to do what is called a triage call, right? This is the most important thing you can do. If you don't want to do a triage call, at least do a confirmation call, right? And I'm going to go into a lot more depth into what these calls are and stuff like that. But that is, if you stop watching now, just get your setter to phone them as soon as they book a call, right? So let's get into what this entire process looks like. So what we essentially do is, now we're sending a pre-triage voice note and we're confirming the lead's phone number as soon as they book a call. The reason we want to confirm the phone number is so that we can then triage them and make sure that the phone number we are calling is actually their phone number. So to kind of give you a little bit of a better example of what that looks like, right? If we go to one of the leads, right? This is obviously them sending us a message where they booked. So I set an appointment for Monday at 9:15. I'm looking forward to it. So they've booked the call, right? Immediately, what the setter does, it says, awesome, man, my team is looking forward to helping you make that decision. In the meantime, I'm going to get someone else from my team to just give you a quick 15-minute call, a quick call in 15 minutes just to confirm the booking and send over some more resources, right? So these 2 messages is basically now what we've condensed into a voice note that the business owner has recorded, right? Basically, pre-triage voice note, which essentially gets the lead prepared for the triage call and tells them everything to expect on that call. We're going to get someone from our team to give you a quick call to confirm your booking and then send you some more free resources, right? And then what we go ahead and do is kind of confirm that lead's phone number, which happens right here. Just to confirm, this is the correct number to call you on. And then we obviously say the number. I'll obviously blur this out for privacy reasons, but then they say, yes, that's the number, right? And now I want to go into kind of this video, what this video is, and then what this resource is, right? So I hope that kind of makes sense in terms of what we do. So just to clarify, because this is important, the first thing we do is we make sure that they qualified. Second thing we do is we say, hey name, so you booked the call for Thursday at 3 p.m., for example, and then we send them that pre-triage voice note that essentially has this message inside of it. Hey man, it'll be something like, hey man, my team is looking forward to speaking with you. In the meantime, I'm going to get someone from my team to give you a quick call in about 15 minutes just to confirm the booking, send over some more free resources, right? And then he also says in the voice note, for now, you can watch, I'm going to send you a 8-minute video that just explains the business model in a little bit more detail until my team member calls you. That's essentially what the voice note looks like, right? But you can also just get your setter to do it in a message format if you don't want to record a voice note. If you are the business owner, I would recommend you record that voice note, and then the setter can just send it, and it essentially creates congruence between this part in the process and then eventually once your setter actually triages the lead, right? So what happens is we basically send that pre-triage voice note, we confirm the lead's phone number, and then we send them an 8-minute video that basically just is almost like just a mini explanation of what the business model is. Now, I wouldn't really recommend everyone do this. The reason we implemented this specifically is because my client's business model, he's make money online, B2C offer, but the business model that he teaches people is pretty complex. It's like a lead generation agency, start your own lead generation agency. And a lot of people haven't really heard of what a lead generation agency is. Like, it's not as popular as drop shipping or Amazon FBA or Forex, or all these kind of things. And because it's less popular, we really wanted to get people more educated before they get on a sales call. And this is mainly to help with the closing rate, not so much with the show rate. But that's why we send this video. If you want to create a video that you send them before the triage call, you can. It won't really affect the show rate, right? But just giving you context as to why we do it. Now, we send that pre-triage voice note that, like I said, says, so that you booked the call, I'm going to get one of my team members to give you a quick call in about 15 minutes where he'll just ask you a couple questions, confirm your booking, and then send over a couple more free resources, right? Then we confirm that this is the actual phone number, and then in 15 minutes, the setter actually phones them up and performs what is called the triage call. Now, on that triage call, I'm not going to go over the entire triage call. I'll probably create another video going over a triage call script and maybe even reviewing an actual live triage call and stuff like that. But it depends. There's a lot of people that have different opinions when it comes to triage calls. I like to keep triage calls pretty short. It shouldn't be 40 minutes. It should be like a 10-minute conversation with the lead. That's what the triage call should be, where you maybe dive a little bit deeper into their goals a tiny bit, and then you maybe just ask them, what made you book the call that you have scheduled for Thursday? That's a very good question to ask. And then from there, maybe dive a little bit deeper into their goals. How long have you been following the business owner for? Also another good question to ask. How long have you been trying to start an online business or lose weight or whatever is your offer is, right? That's another good question to ask. And then I would really get into the more logistical side. So, just to confirm your call, you did say you've booked for Thursday at 3 p.m. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Do you have the Zoom link for that call? Yes, I do have the Zoom link. Or no, I don't have the Zoom link, which then the setter proceeds to send that person the Zoom link, right? And then another thing that's very important for the setter to do during the triage call is getting the lead to confirm the call through their email. So they will have, as soon as they book the call, they have a confirmation email, and actually going on that email and clicking yes to essentially confirm the call, so that then like Calendly or Go High Level, whatever software you use, can start really sending them a lot of reminders and stuff like that, and actually add that sales call to that person's calendar, because sometimes it doesn't add it and stuff like that. So getting the setter to get the lead to manually confirm the call through their email is very, very important as well. From there, what we do is that triage call essentially then transitions into sending them post-booking videos, right? Now, before I get into the post-booking videos, I do want to explain kind of what's going on here and why the triage call is so important, right? The triage call is one of the best ways to build trust with your leads before that sales call. Genuinely. So I know we talked about continuing to create an incentive and building trust in the post-booking process is what's going to get really people to want to show up and increase that show rate, right? If you're just talking to someone through the DMs, right? It's not really going to build a lot of trust because it's just text. Like it doesn't really do too much. Whereas if you then get your setter to call them and this lead can hear the setter talking, he can hear his tonality and all these kind of things. And obviously the setter's still going to be relating to them on that triage call. That's going to build a lot more trust. And what you need to understand is that any trust that is built, or like any trust that the setter is able to build on that triage call, will directly be associated with your brand, with you and with your business, right? Because that setter is associated to you. And that's what really builds the trust that you need to get people to show up on that sales call. So that's why the triage call is so important. And in the triage call, at the end of it, we kind of, like I said, pre-frame these post-booking videos that we then send people, right? And the post-booking videos is really what continues to create that incentive for them to show up, right? You can also continue creating that incentive on the triage call by asking a good amount of questions like, what made you book the call on Thursday at 3 p.m. with our team? How long have you been following Jimmy for? How long have you been wanting to start an online business or get in shape? What makes you feel like now's the right time to do that? Like all of these questions can still create more of an incentive to get them to show up, but it's also really about building that trust on that triage call. Hope that makes sense. Like I said, in the future, I'll definitely make a video when it comes to the triage call, but that is all the information I'm going to give for right now. Hope that makes sense. So when it comes to then the post-booking page, this is currently what the post-booking page looks like for Jimmy. He's kind of done a very good job to structure all of this. And there are a bunch of other videos that, like these type of videos, that I wouldn't really recommend everyone make. Because like I said, with his business model, what we kind of are focusing on a lot more now to increase the close rate, now that we fixed the show rate, is educating people a lot more. And that's why in these videos, there's a lot more education and stuff like that happens, which if you have like a fitness offer, or if you have a more simple offer that's much easier to understand, you don't really need to educate people as much as what we are doing here. However, you can definitely see things that are going to build a lot more trust, like this video, for example, that shares Jimmy's journey from going from a corporate worker to generating over $900,000 online with his own lead generation agency, right? Where he just shares his story. The other things that are really going to kind of build trust is client case studies, client results, client interviews, all these kind of things really build trust. And then we also have like a VSL that obviously is going to create a much bigger of an incentive for these people to show up, right? That's kind of how you want to structure your videos. Another thing that's very important for you to do in these post-booking videos is create what is called like a confirmation keyword. So please make sure to message us confirmed on Instagram to confirm your strategy call. And he mentions this exact phrase in every single one of these videos, because obviously with the show rate and with these videos, you do want people to watch them. It's not just I'm sending them the videos and that's going to create the incentive and the trust that I need for them to show up. You need to get them to watch the videos. So another thing that's very important that I kind of forgot to mention is at the end of this triage call, your setter needs to emphasize the importance of the lead watching these videos and almost say like, if you don't watch these videos, we're going to cancel the call. If you don't watch these videos and let us know that you've watched them and then let us know what you think of these videos, we are simply just going to cancel the call because we only want to work with people that are serious, right? And we genuinely do tell people that. And that is one of the reasons why the close rate has now increased to where it is because a lot more people are watching these videos. And that also helped the show rate as well. Because it's like now that we are genuinely getting people to watch these videos, because you may think people are watching your VSL when you just send it to them, but they're really not. Especially if it's B2B. And the other thing is you need to position these videos in their best interest, especially if you have a B2B offer, for example, but even with B2C. Like if you're a fitness coach or make money online coach and you're targeting busy professionals because they probably have enough money to kind of invest in your coaching, they are busy. They don't care about your videos. You need to position it in their best interest on the triage call. Your setter needs to position all of these post-booking videos in your lead's best interest. Otherwise, they won't watch them, right? Make sure you kind of understand that and you teach your setter how to do that. Cool. Once the post-booking videos are kind of sent, which, like I said, to summarize, the triage call and these post-booking videos is really what's going to create that trust and incentive that is going to get people to show up, right? After that, 3 to 6 hours after you sent these videos, you do want to almost get confirmation that they've watched them. Like I said, we have that confirmation keyword in all of the videos, but we do also want to think, we do also want to ask them, what did you think of it? Now, a lot of people make the mistake of asking your leads, have you watched them? Don't ask that, because people will just say yes and lie. If I ask someone, what did you think of them? They have to have watched the videos to give me their opinion on the videos. Like, you can't give me a detailed breakdown of exactly what you thought about the videos if you haven't watched them. So make sure you ask people, what did you think of them, instead of have you watched them? Cool. So we kind of get confirmation about the videos. And at this point, 3 to 6 hours later, if they have actually watched it, they will send us that keyword confirmed. And that is where it kind of starts transitioning more into the triage call and the post-booking videos have continued to create that incentive and trust that we need to get them to show up. And now it's just about that last little bit of confirmation and the reminder sequence that then gets people to not show up, or gets people to not no-show because they forgot about the call, right? So the triage call and the post-booking videos makes people want to show up, because all of those videos were positioned in their best interest, and which gets them to watch them. And obviously the effect that the VSL or the client interviews has on them will create that trust and incentive to get people to show up and to want to show up, right? And then, like I said, what I'm going to get into now in terms of the reminder sequence is what allows people to not forget about the call, right? So getting into the last section of the post-booking process here will be the reminder sequence. So I only send 3 reminders. I mean, basically 2 reminders. 3, it depends. Let me just start getting into, I guess, the reminder sequence. First thing we'll do is a 24-hour reminder that's phrased as a statement. So something as simple as just a heads up, 24 hours to the call. Very simple, just a statement letting them know there's 24 hours to the call. Right. Now, and obviously this is what your setter will be sending. You don't have to send it. Your setter will send it manually through Instagram. Then 6 hours before the call, it's not going to be a statement, but it's going to be a 6-hour reminder that invokes confirmation. Very important. So 6 hours to go, man. Are you ready? The last 3 words that's phrased as a question is what will invoke that confirmation. Are you ready? Right? Now, if we get confirmation, or if we don't get confirmation within 3 hours, we do what is called a confirmation call. That is where your setter then calls the lead to do a confirmation call, right? And if we do get confirmation within 3 hours of sending the 6-hour reminder, then they're good to go. We don't really have to do a confirmation call, right? What the confirmation call kind of looks like will be something along the lines of, hey, is this Jack, for example, the lead's name? They say, yes, it is. We'll simply just say, amazing, man, it's Alex from Jimmy's team. I saw you book the call with our team that starts in around 3 hours. I'm just calling to make sure that you can still make that time, just so I can let our team know that you're still good to go, right? And we kind of, if you just say that, they will basically then say, yes, I'm still good for that time. If they say yes, and they basically confirm that they'll show up, you simply say, sounds good, man. We're excited to see how we can potentially help you. And you basically just end the call, right? You've confirmed that they will show up. And then obviously your setter lets you know, or lets your closer know, that this person is good to go. They will show up. Now, if the lead says no, he's not going to be able to make that call, right? He basically confirms that he won't show up. This is where we then reschedule them on that confirmation call. You don't just say, okay, no worries, see you next time. No, we reschedule them on that confirmation call. So we'll say something like, we'll basically give them 2 available time slots for the next day. Once he's picked one of those time slots, your setter will just manually move today's call to that time that he picked for tomorrow, right? It's as easy as that. And then once your setters rescheduled him, he'll basically tell them that, hey, tomorrow I'll let you know around 6 hours before the call, just to kind of, I'll send you a reminder 6 hours before the call, just to confirm that you will be able to show up so that we don't waste our time. And you basically tell him that you're going to give him a 6-hour confirmation so that, or 6-hour reminder, so that he does confirm, so that you don't have to get on a confirmation call again. So to summarize, we send a 24-hour reminder that's phrased as a statement, a 6-hour reminder that invokes response. If we don't get confirmation within 3 hours of sending that 6-hour reminder, your setter performs what is called a confirmation call, where most leads will say, yes, I'm good for the call. If they say they can't make that call for whatever reason, we reschedule them on that confirmation call, right? And that is genuinely the entire post-booking process that we now implement. This is what the post-booking process looked like when we were able to have a 45% increase from 55% to 100%, where now the show rate is around 83% for this week. So the main changes that I made, to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what are the biggest levers that you can pull, is the triage call. That is the biggest thing that I did. The triage call and pre-framing the triage call is the biggest change that I made to the post-booking process to basically double the show rate. That's why I said like 10, 15 minutes ago, the biggest, if there's one thing you take out of this video, is to get your setters to call your lead as soon as they book. As soon as they book. Even if it's just a confirmation call. Even if it's just a confirmation call, and then they send the post-booking videos after the confirmation call. Even if it's just that, I'm telling you, that will probably increase your show rate by 20% at least, right? If you don't think your setters have enough skill to kind of do a full triage call and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm going to probably make more videos in terms of what the triage call looks like and like step-by-step process of the questions you need to ask. But if there's one thing you take out of this video, get your setter to call your leads as soon as they book. That's the biggest lever you can pull, right? And obviously, like I said, that is the biggest change that I made in the post-booking process, which has a 60% effect on whether or not someone shows up. That led to that double in show rate, right? Like I said, also make sure that your setters are building enough trust within that conversation too, right? Because if they just building emotion and getting people to be emotional and book the call, and they don't build trust, people will just immediately ghost after booking the call, and then you won't give your setter the opportunity to triage them. And then it's like 100% they're gonna no-show, right? So it's very, very important that you kind of understand this process. If there's any, and by the way, this kind of example, we did end up actually closing yesterday to, I guess, show you that it works. I hope that kind of makes sense in terms of everything that I went over, right? In terms of the 2 reasons people don't show up, the different parts of your sales process and how they affect your show rate, the fact that during your setting conversation, you need to make sure you're building trust and an incentive, and that the same thing then applies in your post-booking process. You need to continue building that trust and incentive to get them to show up. Best way you can do that is by calling them directly after they book, and then obviously sending them client interviews and a VSL in those post-booking videos. And then just to make sure that no one no-shows because they forgot about the call, you'll obviously then implement this reminder sequence that invokes confirmation. Very, very important, right? This is the entire post-booking process I implemented with that team. If you need like a post-booking process like this, or you can just see the changes I've made and you're not sure how to implement these changes and stuff like that, you're not sure how to train your setter to do a triage call and implement this entire process, you're not sure how much education you need to give your leads to kind of increase the close rate on the back end and all these kind of things, or maybe you just don't know how to train your setters to be booking calls in the first place, right? If you need any help in terms of those different aspects of your sales process, what I want you to do is book a call with me down below. I'll let you know how I can help you and if it even makes sense for us to kind of work together. And then obviously we'll take it from there. If there's any questions in regards to this entire post-booking process, how you can implement it into your business and stuff like that, or if there's any parts that you're maybe still unsure of, hit up my Instagram. I'll put it down here somewhere, and send me a message on Instagram just with any questions you have about this video, how you can implement this post-booking process. Hope everything made sense, and then I'll see you guys in the next one.